So I think we've pretty thoroughly covered TERA at this point. Why don't we switch gears a little bit and talk about the Ghost in the Shell game that just had the free weekend on Steam? Because that was my first time playing that. Let me see if I can get the name right. It's Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex First Assault Online. Nailed it!
Nailed it.
That was definitely one of those games for me, anyway, that was a bit of a pleasant surprise. Because I was not really expecting very much from that game. And I actually kind of enjoy it. Because I feel like I've been searching for a while now for a good go-to shooter experience that's not too heavy in terms of what it requires of me as a player, but functions properly and feels like I can actually compete and I'm not completely outclassed, or doesn't feel like I'm being completely just steamrolled by other people due to them either being extremely more familiar with the game or perhaps using nefarious means to cheat me, for lack of a better term. And I have to say, I've been playing that game and even played a little bit of it since the free weekend ended, and I'm definitely still feeling it and definitely still into it. I think it's a fun little game.
For the most part, I think it's a good time. It just hasn't really grabbed me as some other games have in the past. I mean, the obvious examples would be like Soldier Front 2, and it's definitely not grabbed me in that sense. But it is a fun time killer for me. And I feel like that's just because in terms of genres that I am into, the first-person shooter genre is probably easily, I'd say, one of my favorites, if not my favorite. But I think it's a good time, for sure. I'm not sure if I would ever buy anything in-game, but I feel like I have to give that game another fair shake to see if it maybe catches me at a different time.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, like I say, the thing that I gravitate to that game for is the fact that when I have my sort of checklist of things that I'm looking for from a free-to-play first-person shooter, right? There's certain things that usually at least one of these things is absent. The ability to group up and party with your friends and play together. It's got that. Good, solid gunplay for the most part, where the weapons actually feel decent to use and feel like they have an appropriate amount of lethality to them. I feel like it's got that. Things that I could kind of take or leave about the game would be like the special abilities and stuff. I definitely feel like I understand why they've created this scenario where the special characters in the game have their own kind of superpowers and whatnot, because those things match up with the source material very nicely. But I also feel like from a game standpoint, I almost wish that game was just a regular shooter where the characters didn't have special abilities, because I almost feel like the game would be even more fun if that was the case. But I also really absolutely understand why it is the way it is, because of the fact that it's based on source material that sort of necessitates that. You can't have Major Kusanagi in a Ghost in the Shell game not be able to use thermoptic camouflage, because that's kind of her thing. If you watch the movies and you watch the anime, that's an ability that she has that she uses quite frequently in the context of those works. So to make a game where she can't do that just wouldn't make any sense. It's kind of a weird pro and con kind of thing, because on the one hand I really like the fact that it is Ghost in the Shell and it kind of helps me relate to it more, but at the same time I wonder if the things that they've had to add into the game to make it fit the source material actually are the best for the gameplay. I'm still kind of on the fence about it. I haven't really decided. I feel like I need to spend more time with the game and really get used to it, because one thing I'm finding is the more of it that I play, certain things that I thought were going to be a big deal or that were going to have a major impact on the gameplay actually turned out to not be the case. In some cases, it was just a matter of getting used to certain abilities and how they could be countered by other abilities. When you first start playing and you see certain things, you think, oh, that's OP or that's unbalanced or whatever, but really it gets into a situation where the more of the game you play and the more you see the counters for the various abilities, the more you realize that it actually is more balanced than it at first appears to be. The other thing that's kind of interesting to me about that game is the whole teamwork aspect of it, or the linking aspect, where when you fire off an ability, if your teammates are in close proximity to you, they can kind of piggyback off of it. If one character has a special ability, say to see through walls or use their invisibility or whatever, and they activate that when you're near them, you can actually kind of grab a lesser version of that ability and use it yourself, even though your character wouldn't normally have that ability. I definitely think that's kind of a cool mechanical wrinkle that you don't really see in a lot of class-based games like that.
It's definitely given players a lot of very unique tactical opportunities, and I will definitely give it that, because I actually forgot that that was a core mechanic of that game. But I will give that game the props for that, because I feel like I wish more first person shooters had more things like that, just again to give players more of a tactical opportunity. And I guess for me, that's sort of what I want more of. I guess an FPS is more like a tactical feel game,
Mm-hmm.
uh, more so than I feel like anything else. So the fact that that game does that, again, it's all good in my book from that perspective. It's just, again, like you were saying, the abilities by and large for me are just not. I don't know if they're not. I don't know if they don't do enough or they don't pack the game enough to really make me think anything else, like really about them. I mean, I know when I was first playing it, I was like dreading the cloak, just because of prior experiences in other games that had cloaks. But I feel like if I were to take another look at it, like, because I had like a stealth screen ability that was very positional. So you had to set up in an area in order to actually utilize it to any real length.
Mm-hmm.
As with the cloak, it's like, sure, you have the sheen, but I was kind of annoyed that, like I have this stealth screen. It's like I got to use it in a particular situation or at a particular angle to actually take advantage of it, while these people were just running around with cloaks and ghosting me.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I mean, I still very much need to learn like the maps and the abilities and how to use them in particular situations to really get the most effect out of them from a tactical perspective.
The other thing I would say too that I wanted to touch on before I forget about it is the other thing that I really like about that game is I feel like it's a game that really encourages teamwork, because I feel like that's one aspect of the game. playing in some of the other modes like the bomb planting and disposal mode and the terminal point capture mode and stuff like that, I really feel like you really see a lot of instances where the teamwork just kind of organically happens because of the fact that the way the levels are designed and the way the objectives are set up and everything's constructed in that game dovetails so nicely with all the group abilities and people linking their special abilities and stuff like that together, and it all just kind of organically happens. Whereas I feel like a lot of games try to force that on you or try to make you do that, and there's a difference between a game telling you that you have to do that and you just kind of organically coming to that conclusion through normal gameplay. And I think that game is built in such a way that really does. It's one of those things where if you play it for any significant amount of time, you're inevitably going to come to the conclusion that you're better off playing the game with your teammates and coordinating your efforts with them than you're ever going to be trying to do anything by yourself. And I feel like that's, for me, what's kind of cool about the game. It encourages teamwork and it makes you feel like teamwork is necessary without forcing it on you. And I'm definitely a fan of that.
I can see that. I can see that for sure. Again, like I just wish, and I would just wish more games were inherently like that, where people would want to play as a group, and rather than just the whole run and gun aspect of most of them, where you can just like, you know, most Call of Duty games, that's sort of just the vibe where you can just solo and be able to kill like the entire team if you're actually that skilled at the game. Where it's these other games, at least Ghost in the Shell specifically, it's way more based on teamwork, because I've tried to do that type of combat. I've tried to instill that playstyle, I should say. Just the running gun, try and carry the team on my back sort of mentality, and it doesn't really lend itself to that. Because as soon as you kill one person, that person had like 2 or 3 people with them, and so you get killed as a result. So it's more of an emphasis on the teamwork that you're going to be putting in and conducting rather than the individual skill of a certain player.
Yeah, absolutely. The sense that I get when I play the game, especially when I play, in particular, the terminal control mode, which I don't think you ever had a chance to play during the free weekend, but that mode in particular, I always feel when I play that we succeed or fail as a team. And it never feels like any one person makes or breaks the experience in that mode. And I think it's just a lot of little subtle factors that come together, but I get really pumped whenever I win a round of that because it feels like you're actually doing something as a collective group and not just relying on somebody to be a crack shot or whatever.
Although snipers who are skilled are welcome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would never turn you away, sniper men, women, people, whatever.